Good day everybody, welcome back to another Chinwag. So I'm just sat here in the forest above the little village I'm from here in North Wales. That's quite a big tree that's fallen down there, eh? This forest is full of fallen down old trees. I've just been at the top here now. This path is called the Zigzag and it takes you up to a lake above the village here. And right at the top of the path there's a huge tree that's been uprooted and it's wedged itself against another tree in order not to fall down this bank here. I mean, it's quite a steep bank this that goes up to the lake, and it's massive, man. And if that falls down, if that comes down here, that ain't gonna be pretty, folks. That ain't gonna be pretty. But then as I was coming down, I just took a note of all of the fallen trees that are here, you know, bloody loads of them. So it's a really old forest here, folks. It's a very old forest. Anyway, enough about that. In this little Chinwag, it's nearly 3 years to the day since the pandemic kind of affected my life and came over here in the UK, the country where I'm from. And yeah, I just wanted to do a little bit quick video really of how I felt at the time with what was going on and my thoughts on it now and how it kind of has affected me over the last 3 years, you know. So when it happened, when it kind of started kicking off in the UK, when everyone was going crazy for toilet roll and all of that jazz, my girlfriend and I were in Sri Lanka. We were over there and there was nothing going on over there, you know, only up until the last few days. I think it was the third or fourth day before we were due to come home. Three people came down with it in Sri Lanka. So while we were there, that country went into a slight panic, and with being tourists and foreign, they really kind of didn't take too well to us after that. I think it was a tour guide and a tourist that had tested positive or something. So, and that country had never seen a pandemic anything like this ever in the history of their country, you know. So they were panicking, obviously, and so the last few days was quite strange there. No one wanted us going in the buses and public transport and all of this, you know. A lot of the hotels closed down. For us personally, it was amazing because we had some experiences that we wouldn't have had if it was so busy. So for us, it kind of worked out well because we ended up in this hotel, in this elephant hotel, beautiful, and we had pretty much the place to ourselves because it closed down to everyone else, but they didn't cancel the bookings that they already had, which was just us. And I think there was one more couple there who we didn't even see. So anyways, when I was there, and it was when we were waiting in the airport, I just started thinking about what was going on because people started wearing masks and putting things over their faces, you know, coverings and all of this, and I was like, this seems very strange. But let me just show you a quick clip now of my reaction when I was in the airport and what I kind of said to the camera. As I was coming through the airport, everyone's wearing masks, all their staff, it's very kind of strange, you know. It's a strange feeling, almost like a controlled feeling, like you're being controlled by something, and we've all got our views on that, I guess, but yeah, it's definitely a strange situation we're in right now. Anyways. So yes, folks, as you can see, since day one, I've always thought there was something strange going on. I always thought it was a kind of control thing. I don't know why, don't ask me why, I didn't know anything about it too much. I just knew it happened in China. It spread to a few countries around the world, and it then started affecting my country and the country I was in at the time, Sri Lanka. So that was my first time of being surrounded by people that were panicking and wondering what was going on and all of this, you know. So as you've seen from that clip, from day one I've thought it was a control thing. My views 3 years later have not changed one bit, you know. I still believe it's a control thing, and I do believe everything that's been going on in the last few years, not just the COVID, but other things that I don't really want to mention too much about, but you know, when the BLM thing started and all of that kind of stuff, I truly believe it's all tied into the same thing. Even to this day, with things that are going on right now, I believe everything's tied in, and it's a massive shift to change the world. Without going too deep into this conversation here, because I know everyone will have different views on this, but I've made mine quite clear since day one, pretty much, you know. I think from the beginning I was maybe saying a little bit too much on my social media because I had my views and this, that and the other, but then I kind of learned that you can't preach to people and tell people what's going on. And you know, I still don't know. No one knows what's going on, exactly what's going on, do we? But I don't believe it's the end of it. I believe this is going to continue for a while, and you just have to keep one eye on the ball, as they say. Like I say, I don't want to go too deep into this because there's many people that will think the opposite to me, you know, but I do know a lot of people now as well that from the beginning thought the government had our best interests at heart, and that they were doing everything they could, and they were coming on the TV trying to keep us safe by keeping us indoors and this and that. But a lot of them now are seeing the wood for the trees. They're seeing the wood for the trees, folks, no pun intended. But yeah, many people are kind of changing their minds about what's going on and stuff, you know. So we're 3 years down the line here now, and yeah, the first year or two was very strange, eh? The way I'm just talking from the UK here now, and I know it was very similar to other parts in the world, if not worse. The way we were locked down and told certain things that have now been factually checked and are proven that weren't correct by what the government was telling us, you know. So we really should be questioning anything from this point onwards that they're telling us, because if they've kept things from us, lied and manipulated certain things and people and situations, then they're not going to stop as far as I'm concerned. Do you know what I mean? So, but these are just my views. It's not to say I'm right, not to say I'm wrong, you know. But so yeah, in the first, how it affected me, let's move on to that. So as you will know, I love to travel. My partner lives in Mexico, so that's halfway around the world from where I am. So it made things very, very difficult to begin with. In the UK, going back to when we were in Sri Lanka, you know, I did that little video. I said something strange seems to be going on. I think it's like a control thing. And as we were coming back to the UK, seriously, in my mind, when I was with my girlfriend, she was flying home. Well, due to fly home to Mexico from the UK. So we flew from Sri Lanka to the UK. She was going to fly from the UK to Mexico. But she was stuck in the UK for 2 or 3 days, I think it was, because there was no flights. And so I was like, for the whole of that time, I was just thinking, when am I going to see you again? You know, about my girlfriend. I was quite concerned because I could seriously feel in myself that something big was going down. That something big was going down, you know. And she's more of a kind of, the cup is half full. She just looks on the brighter side, not the brighter side of things, but she was like, no, don't worry, it's all going to be fine. It's just, you know, it's just something for a couple of weeks. Because at the beginning, if you remember, they were telling us in the UK, just stay indoors for 2 weeks, it'll all be gone, it'll all be done. So I didn't believe any of that, you know, and I truly thought that I wasn't going to see her for a long time. So I had to go and drop her off in Liverpool airport. And I just remember that day like it was yesterday. I just remember thinking, I don't feel like I'm going to see you for a while, you know. But she was like, don't worry, it's going to be fine, it's all good. Long story short, we didn't see each other for 7 months after that day, because all the, you know, the airports got closed down and public transport and blah blah blah. So that was a very tough time for us in a way, even though we're used to kind of not being with each other for a fair amount of time each time, because we have a long distance relationship at the moment. But yeah, man, I just had this feeling the whole time that I wasn't going to see her for a while, and it became true, you know. And to be fair, most of the things that I've thought through this whole situation have kind of either become true or proven to be true, you know. And so that was quite hard for us, you know. So that was 7 months of not seeing each other. Then I managed to get over to Mexico. Bear with me 1 second, folks. Let me just get a little drink of my tea here. Talking myself to death. Yes, so I managed to get over to Mexico. I had to fly from here to Amsterdam to Mexico, and the whole way I was wondering, how am I going to get into the country? They could turn me away at last minute, you know. I got in, found out Mexico was way more relaxed than the UK. That's another subject again, but yeah, when you took yourself away from the UK at that time, you realised how suppressed and how ridiculously controlled we were being, you know. Yes, they had to wear masks in Mexico. They had to put gel on their hands when they went into certain places like supermarkets and the restaurants. But in general, it's very chill, you know, very, very chill. And even to this day, they never closed their borders. You could just go there without a test, without anything. So well, once that happened, I went over to Mexico, I think 2 or 3 more times, because Fabiola wasn't able to get into this country as easy. So I was going over there because it was easier. So we were just going back and forth to me going to Mexico for a good while. It must have been over a year we were doing that, you know. I don't think Fabiola left her own country really for over a year. Could have been 18 months, something like that. So which was great. I mean, it was all good. It was all good. And let me just go back to how it affected me for the first 7 months. When I was at home, I was going to places that I hadn't been to before in my homeland. You know, I was coming more up into these woods here. I was going to places that I used to go to as a child a lot more. So it gave me a lot of time to kind of venture around my own homeland and my own country for a while, you know, which I was very thankful for. I had some lovely road trips around the UK, to be fair. We had a tier system at one point. I don't know if you remember, tier 1, 2 and 3. And Cornwall was on tier 1 at one point, the only place in the country, and I was fortunate enough to be off work at that time, so I headed down there for a nice couple of weeks. It was, yeah. So, you know, it kind of affected me in certain ways, but also I did my own thing at the same time. Do you know what I mean? I didn't let it stop me having my adventure fix, so to speak. Apart from when we were proper locked down, which I did, and I abided. But I did come up to the woods here for a couple of hikes on my allocated times that I was allowed to go for a hike. So I did take myself up the mountain and have get my fresh air, get my fix of all this, you know. But anyway, and then after that, everything started opening up a little bit more, didn't it? I had to take a couple of tests to get back into this country actually. So when I was going over to Mexico, I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to quarantine or anything like that. But then when I came back, I was having to quarantine in the UK. I think it was 10 days or 12 days, something like that. So that was all a bit strange, you know. I had to do some tests when I came back, and something I'm not a big fan on and haven't done many of at all, to be honest. Only to come back to my own country. They're the only times I've done tests, to be honest with you, which is yeah. We got there's some work going on getting done down here, and the guys are starting their wagons and stuff again. So I'm sorry for the little beeps if you hear the beeps, but we're nearly done, folks. Anyway, yeah, so it was all a little bit strange, and then everything started opening up a little bit more then, and we've been fortunate enough to travel and do this, that and the other. But you know, you can still tell there's something going on. We're free at the moment, but I believe, and I want to say this on camera because like I did in Sri Lanka, I do believe this isn't the end. I believe this is them just letting us breathe for a little while. They're giving us a little break, the government, I mean. And then I think shit's gonna hit the fan again at some point, in some way, which again, I don't want to go into too much into this video because this isn't what my channel's about, really. You know, it's not about talking about the world and stuff like that. But it's difficult not to when you have certain views and certain things have happened in your village that bring up a question about what's going to happen next. You know, if you didn't see that video, I'll leave a link into the description box below if you'd like to watch that. But it had quite a few views. So yes, folks, that's what's been going on for the last few years, really. Like I say, I still feel privileged. It didn't stop any of my work. I was still able to continue to work all the way through it, and yeah, it just stopped my relationship being what it should have been for a few months, you know. After the 7-month stint that we didn't have together, I think the stint after that was 5 months. I think I came back and then I wasn't able to get back over there for about 5 months. So for nearly a year, pretty much, we only saw each other 2 or 3 times, you know. So oh yeah, that was pretty difficult. But we got through it, folks. We're still together, we're still traveling, we're still having a whale of a time. We're making the most of our lives, which is what I suggest everyone should do if they can. Yeah, that's it for this one, I guess. Like I say, I'm just enjoying the tranquility of this forest. I did want to do the video up by a waterfall. Let me just show you the waterfall. I was really wanting to do it by there, but it was gushing down today, folks. Absolutely chucking it down with water. It's been snowing hard here, so all of the snow melted pretty much. It's been melting over the last day or two, so the rivers and the waterfalls are pretty immense at the moment. So I went up there thinking it'd be nice to do a little video from there, but it was too loud, man. It was too loud. It was pounding down. So we've just had to put up with the little forest today. Anyways, it looks like I'm leaving you at a good time because these guys are going to be making a racket. Until the next one, folks, stay chirpy, stay happy. Peace.